Welcome to the Bite Size Fitness Show, where we talk all things fitness, nutrition, and habits, and break them down into smaller, more digestible, bite-sized pieces of content for you to enjoy. My name is Sean Bikirk, and I am your host, and in today's episode, I'm going to be explaining why you might gain weight after starting an exercise program. And this is more common than you might think. You can imagine how frustrating it must be. You finally muster up the courage, the energy to actually go out there and put in a ton of energy into starting a new workout program, and then you decide to weigh yourself the next week. Not only have you not lost weight, but you've actually gained weight. And I'm going to break down why this could happen. And there's a few different reasons. Some of them are just acute, so some of them are reactions to the actual exercise itself, meaning it doesn't really reflect a change in body weight going forward. And then there are a couple things that do reflect a change in body weight going forward. Okay, so let's talk about those acute ones. The first one is just that short-term inflammation response. So inflammation gets this negative connotation, but it's actually just any sort of response from your immune system to fight off something. And when you're exercising, we all know the amazing health benefits of exercise, but it is taxing on the body. If you were to get a blood panel of someone who is in the middle of exercise, they would look like the sickest person on earth, right? Their blood pressure's through the roof, their cortisol levels are really high, their muscles tearing apart. So exercise, if you were to just look at it through a microscope, looks terrible, but it's actually, as we know, one of the best things you can do for your health. So what happens is after we exercise, our muscle fibers are actually tearing and they need to repair themselves. And what happens when you do that is you get this surge of white blood cells that go into the tissues, and this causes swelling. So you might feel that pump, which is really short term after a workout, or you might feel that soreness a day or two after. All of these things are a result of inflammation, and they can cause short-term weight gain because you get more water, you get more blood cells to the area, and that inflammation can actually increase your body weight. Of course, not something to be worried about, but it is a very, very common occurrence, especially if you're doing a lot of strength training. So if you're doing a lot of strength training and you're sore or you feel that pump, just keep in mind it's probably some inflammation. Another option could be water. This could go either way. So if you're doing like a really long, intense cardio workout, you're probably going to sweat out more water than you take in, meaning you're going to lose weight. But if you're doing a moderate, even an intense workout, but you're drinking a lot of water, you can actually gain weight after that workout if you were to weigh yourself. And once again, we know this is a very short-term non-issue when it comes to your body weight. And then of course, women have the issue with, depending on the week-to-week basis, their hormonal levels can also influence how much water their body is holding, which can give you a very inaccurate reflection of where your body weight is at, depending on the time of month that you are in. And then another thing is if you're taking any sort of supplements. So if you're taking a carb-heavy supplement, it might increase your body's glycogen, which can store water. If you're taking creatine, it can increase your body's ability to store water. And again, these things aren't bad. Creatine is one of the most widely researched supplement out there. Doesn't mean that you're actually gaining weight. It just means your body's probably storing a little bit more water. This happens to some people, but not everyone. So those are some of the short-term acute responses to exercise that could definitely lead to weight gain, and none of those things are anything to worry about. Now, there are two things that could lead to weight gain that actually do reflect a trend towards a change in weight. The first one is beneficial. The first one is increased muscle. You probably heard this before. When you start an exercise routine, especially if you're a beginner, you're going to put on muscle relatively easy, but I do think some people overestimate how much muscle they're actually putting on. If you're just working out for a week or two and you've gained 3 pounds, I hate to break it to you, but you have not gained 3 pounds of muscle. It's not that fast. It's not that easy. I wish it was. But if you are working out for weeks or months, which is probably more realistic, and noticing a change in weight, it could definitely be from muscle, especially if you're strength training, if you're increasing your protein intake, and especially if you notice the number on the scale go up, but your clothes are fitting differently. So you've probably heard that saying before, muscle weighs more than fat, which is a bit misleading because a pound of muscle is the same as a pound of fat. But what they're really trying to say is they're trying to say a pound of muscle takes up less space in your body than a pound of fat. It's more dense. So you could be in a completely different wardrobe, be the same weight or even more weight with added muscle and less body fat, and look like a brand new person despite having that number on the scale go up. So building muscle is definitely one of those things that can happen. It usually doesn't happen by accident. It usually does take time for that to happen as well. But if you have gained weight, but you feel like your clothes are fitting different, that could definitely be a telltale sign that it's muscle, and in that case, that's a good thing. And then finally, this is probably the most common response. Exercise stimulates appetite. And when you are hungrier, you are going to eat more, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And we know it is much easier to overeat and take in more calories than it is to overtrain and burn off a ton of calories. So even though you are introducing exercise and you are burning more calories because of that, it's also going to really stimulate those hunger hormones, probably influencing you to eat more. So even though you're exercising and you're burning more calories, if you're eating more, again, consciously or unconsciously, you're going to gain weight. And some of that might be muscle, some of that might be fat as well. So just something to be mindful of. Exercise itself is great, but if, like I said, there's no dietary intervention, or if you're actually eating more, you can't expect to lose weight. So just something to be mindful of that way as well. Okay, so the acute responses could be that inflammation, which is the most common. Could be if you're drinking a lot of water, you get that short-term water intake. If you're taking certain supplements, that could do it. And then long-term, you might be building muscle, which is a good thing. You might just be hungrier and eating more, which could also be leading you towards that scale trending in a different direction. So I hope this video helps, guys. I'll see you in the next one.